Welcome back to the next lesson in this module, all about post-production. As you remember that the last lesson was all about audio mixing, this one is all about color correction and color grading. Let's listen back and watch the video again and see where we're at. I'm gonna jump over to this. Boom. Boom. All right. Okay, you're probably looking at the video. If you're paying attention, you probably noticed this shot right here. And you're wondering, we didn't have that shot. Where'd that shot come from? That's called a pickup shot. The whole idea of pickup shots is while you're editing, something's not flowing. Or you realize that, oh, the script called for that, and we didn't get it. We couldn't get it on the day. So let's go back and film that. And that's exactly what I had to do. Was I went back seemingly after I finished this video. I sent it out to a couple of people just to let them check it out, see what they thought. And I realized, and they realized, that something's missing. It wasn't flowing. It worked the way it was, but it just didn't have that little chef's kiss. And so we realized that we needed a field shot, and so that's what I did. There's a field behind the church, and thankfully there was actually some seeds that had sprouted, and it worked perfectly for what this video is all about. So I went back there, shot it, and added it into the timeline between lessons. So speaking of which, now, so you can see it's kind of bland looking. It's very flat color-wise. I mean, let's switch over to the color grading or the color workspace in Adobe Premiere Pro. Again, what you do is go up here to this right here, go to Workspaces, click it, and go down to Color. So we're now in the color workspace. We went over here and we went over and clicked color. And so this is what you're going to be looking at. You've got your lumetroscopes. I use the waveform RGB. RGB is Roy G. Biv, red, green, blue, and it's separated. What you really want in your mids right here is, you know how you can see it is turning white. That's a good thing. Now, if you want it to make everything come together, you can start messing with your color temperatures over here. Right here is your highs and mids, but I like the way that looked, so we're just going to bring that back. Boom. And the way I did that was I clicked this color picker right here and just clicked the white, and now we're back to back to 0, and I double click that just to make it back to 0. So why is it so flat? I shot in a color profile called log. What log is basically it allows you to have a lot of dynamic range. It gives you a lot of color data to work with. Some of your camera might not have log. That's fine. I just suggest that you shoot in a very flat profile if you want to get into color correction and color grading. If you want to get into color grading, I suggest that your camera shoots 10-bit. 10-bit meaning it's got a lot of data to work with. 8-bit is basically the bare minimum before you get into color grading, because if you start to push your different colors, it will start degrading and it will start to get like distorted, and it will get what's called noise. So just like in audio, if it starts to clip, you start to hear that noise. Well, in the video side, you can actually see it. It's called noise, and it just doesn't look good, to me at least. Once you start to see little crumples and pixels and things of that nature on your screen, that is called distortion and noise. I don't like it, but I have seen on some of the YouTube and some network TV where you'll see it in the blacks, where they've really crunched down on the black levels, and you can actually see the different pixels on the screen. That's called noise. I don't like it, but it is what it is. But yeah, so let's jump back over to Premiere and look at our first shot here, which is the wide shot. Okay, so we've got our edit set the way we want it. And you've got it right here. You can set color on the actual file itself. You can do that. But that would mean that you would have to do color on all of these right here. What a suggestion that I have, and an option that I highly suggest, is using something called an adjustment layer. An adjustment layer is basically a layer that you can do whatever with. You can add effects to it or whatever, but I choose to use it for color. And so all you gotta do is down here at the very bottom. Let me get rid of me real quick. Right here. Boom. Go right here to, you got this folder here, and you got this little page here. Click that page, and a menu will pop up. You go to adjustment layer, click on that. And once this pops up, you will see you have video settings of your width and your height, your time base, which is the frame rate, and your pixel aspect. That's all based on what you set up in your sequence and what's going off the footage of your sequence. Press OK, and it's going to pop up right here. All you got to do is just drag it over. Boom, done. All right, there you go. Adjustment layer. Just drag it all the way over until you want to stop. Now, I'm not going to color this right here because it was already a royalty-free stock already that had already been pre-colored for us. So I'm not going to touch that. Okay, so right here, boom, wide shot. First things we're going to do first. First things first, we're going to go over here to curves. You're going to click the curves section right here. Click it. Boom. Got a whole new section here. Cool. All right. So here is the RGB curves. What is RGB curves? It is broken down to white, red, green, and blue. Now you can, let's go to red. Once you start messing with red, it can remove red or add red. I don't recommend that you do that, especially right now since you are a beginner. I'm just going to explain what the white curves can do, okay? Now, the white curves are basically going to be used for contrast and things of that nature. So we're going to look at over here at our Lumetri scopes at the waveform right here. So we see right here, we've got nothing up top, all this black area right here, that's nothing in the highs, and there's a ton of lows that's completely empty. All right, so here's what we want to do. We're going to go over here to the RGB curves. We're going to first make our first section right here, right there, and we're going to drag it down. And you can see how up here at the waveforms, how it's going up and down. That's all you got to do is just bring it down. And you can already see how you're adding a bunch of shadows and dark and contrast into the picture there. It's starting to darken. Well, we're going to go and do the exact opposite on the high-end side. So let's go up here, click right here, and then drag it back up. Now you can see right over here how it's kind of counteracted each other. So look at that. Look how the darks get even darker once you start adding more light. Boom. Now here's what I'm talking about when you start to like really push it way too much. You can add way too much whites, and you can add way too much darks. You want it to complement each other. Now it's gotten a little bit too dark over here. So what we can do is go to basic correction, go to exposure, and raise the exposure a bit. And as you can see, look over here at right here. It's lifted it up a little bit. So you want to add some more, you want to add some less or more contrast, you can. Bring down the highlights a bit, you can, or add more. But as you can see, as you add more highlights, it actually messes with your exposure. And you can watch your waveforms over here kind of go up and down. So let's do it again. I prefer to have less highlights, especially in log footage. It's a personal opinion for me. I like it that way. Let's look at the shadows. What the shadows is basically doing, if you go negative, it's crushing the shadows and making it more darker. Up here, past that, it starts to lift the shadows. And so I'm going to go right here, lift them up a bit. You can add more whites or bring them down. And then same thing with blacks. You can bring the blacks down, you can lift the blacks up. This is all basically adding contrast. And we can go back to curves. Add some more contrast. Oops. Now, let's go back to basic correction and add some saturation. And this is where the color comes in. Now, the cool thing is, in the curves, you can go over here to the hue saturation curves. And the hue versus saturation, you can select the color you want. Like I'll pick the color green here, and you can make it even more saturated, or you can bring it down. I kind of like how it looks right now. So same thing with hue versus hue. You can select the green again. You can actually change the color. So if you want to make it like a dreamlike setting and make it feel like we're in a different world or something like that, you can do that. Same thing with the brick here. There is, see the red here, how it's just changing. And we can make the sky a different color too. Let's go here. Oh, okay, there we go. You can actually manually select the colors that you want. And you can start messing with the color of the sky and all the other blues. Hue versus Luma. What it does is it brings down the light level of the different color. So if you wanted to make it a little bit darker in there, you can. Luma versus saturation. Luma versus saturation. Click that. That's what that does. It basically adds a little bit more saturation to the lights, the whites, so you can see how it's affecting the brick. It's making it even more saturated. And then saturation versus saturation. Let's just click the right there, that little red area. It's very cool what you can do with the hue curves. All right, let's see here. Where do you want to go? All right, so we've added our first color correction, and this is color correction. This is not even getting the color grading yet. Color grading is when you start to add different colors to the shadows and the mids and the highs. We're going to get into that a little bit, all right? But first I wanted to make sure that the colors are correct first before we start into color correction. All right, so here we go. Let's move over to the second shot. Boom. I like that. That looks good. All right. So our field is a little bit overexposed. The reason we can tell it's a little bit overexposed, right here, you can tell over here in this right here, it's starting to clip out at around 100. Up here in the sky, it's starting to clip out. So what we're going to do is we'll leave that alone for right now. Let's keep going. All right, that works. All right. Now when I shot this, it was at sunset, and the sun hits the house as it's sunsetting. So this right here is also a little overexposed a bit too. So we're going to bring that down as well. So how do we do that? We are going to take our blade tool, and we're going to clip out the different areas over the adjustment layer. And so we're going to select the adjustment layer right here, and we're just going to bring down the exposure, and you can see how this right here is kind of is even more separated. Let's mess with this right here. Let's see what happens. So there in the highs, it's completely white, but I don't like how it's so yellow right here. You can tell it affects the color here. So let's bring it back to where it was. Let's add a little bit of warmness to it. Now, if we wanted to do that, we got a lot of green right here. But of course, it's a field of green, so there's going to be a ton of green here. We can also mess with, since it's in the mids, we could do this. Grab the green curve, bring that down. The blues, since it's in that, you can lift the blues a bit. And so now you can see how it's starting to actually looking a bit better. All right, so let's. I like it. I like it a lot, a whole lot. All right. So that's also a part of color correction too. So if you see this right here and it's like yellow, you can go into the curves here and you can look at the different color that it is, and that's obviously it's tons of green because it's a green field, but it's a lot of green. So you can go into here and you can, since it was directly in the mids here, you can bring that down and it affects everything else. And you saw at the bottom here that had a ton of blue, and we basically just lifted the blues in the shadows here. But yeah, so basic stuff. And so let's go over here to this right here. Select that. Let's bring down the exposure for that. Boom. Done. There we go. Done. There's your color correction. Let's move on to color grading. Now, what are we going to do? We're going to add another adjustment layer on top of that so we can start doing our color grading. So let's do this right here. Let's actually change the color of this adjustment layer so we know exactly what it is. I'm going to change the color, and you go over to, you highlight the ones you want to change the color to. You just highlight, right click, go to label, and let's just make this tan. So that way we know that this is the color correction. So let's add another adjustment layer on top of that, and let's drag it out to the very end. Okay, so we've got that done. We've got the color correction done. Let's start working on a color grade. Okay, so what is a color grade? A color grade is you're basically adding colors to add emotion or definitely add feeling to the video. So this is a really hot day. You can see on my face that I'm just drenched in sweat, and that was I shot that during a heat wave, or a heat wave that's actually currently going on right now in July of 2024. It wasn't hard to act like I was sweating, because I was. And you just take a couple of steps and you're just like drenched in sweat. So what I want to do is I want to make it feel hot. I want to make it feel hot. And how do we do that? So what we're going to do is we're going to go into color wheels and match. We can go into creative and go into different looks. What the looks are basically emulating different films. What Adobe did was they went in and they took different film styles and turned them into looks. And you can, like this Gold Rush here, you can change the intensity, and you can change the intensity, like really intense or less intense. You can fade the film, you can sharpen it, you can add vibrance to it, you can add even more saturation. But what I'm going to do is use color wheels and match. Okay. What are color wheels and match? Color wheels are ways to add even more color to your you can use color wheels to correct, or you can use color wheels to grade. I use color wheels to grade. All right. So if you're thinking it's going to be hot, Do you want your shadows to be yellow or red colored, or you want it to look more blue? Blue means cold. Yellow means hot. Hot. I'm gonna add some yellows to the shadows, and the midtones. Midtones are like your face. That's a midtone. I'm gonna add. I'm gonna go the opposite and add a little bit of blue to it. And then the highlights are all your whites and everything that's really bright. That's your highlights. And I'm going to add a little bit more red. So what I'm doing now is it's a little bit of color science. So you've got your oranges and you're complementing it with another red right here. And then you go the opposite in your midtones. So you want to look at, in color grading, you want to look at color science and look at color theory. So if you're going to go one way, you need to go the opposite way or complement your colors. All right. Also in this right here, you can also bring the shadows. You can crush the shadows even more, lift them. Let's lift it, make it kind of feel like it's humid, because it was very humid. Let's bring the mids down. There we go. So there you go. Done. Very worn. Now you can cheat and just use a LUT, a pre-built LUT from someone. A LUT is a lookup table, and basically what we just did here is build a LUT, a lookup table that you can save by going right here, clicking on this little hamburger stack right here, click that, and then export your look, cube, or save preset. You can save the preset if you really like this, and save it for a future video, and it'll be saved in the effects panel right here. Or you can download the cube or look, and that way it can be used. It can be uploaded to Final Cut, DaVinci Resolve, and any other software that supports LUTs. All right, cool. All right, so we got a LUT, kind of like it. Cool. Let's work on and use the creative and use looks and see what we can do with a look. Let's use the same, we can use the same adjustment layer. It's just going to create a new layer for adjustments. So we're going to bring that in, drag it in. I've already muted this layer here by clicking the eye. You can see right here, I've clicked the eye. That's basically, you're muting the layer. You're turning it off. You can also click Shift, Control, or Command if you're on Mac, and E. You can use Shift, Control, E to actually just disable it, and it won't turn back on. And you just, to turn it back on, just do the exact same shift commands as well, or key commands as well, and there you go, done. All right, so here's the looksies. Let me label this as magenta. All right, so here's the look. Let's look through looks. Bleach, nah. Actually, it's kind of cool. Boop boop, clean. Kodak. Heat. That's really heat. It's really hot. Iron. And so basically what you can do is you can take your intensity from 0 and then just bring it in up to taste of what you like. Let's try a different one. Noir, black and white. Yeah, see? Yeah. Tri-X. What is Tri-X? Oh, it's still black and white. Noir. Duh. Hello. Black and white. Gold tobacco. I've used this before. Gold tobacco works. Now, let's get rid of, let's not be as intense. We can also fade it up, like fade it out if you want to make it a little bit more bougie. You can do it that way too. You can make it more vibrant, like I said earlier. Woo. Vibrant is basically taking the colors and pushing them up like by 10. You can see over here in the parking lot right here how take it out. It's taking out all the color and just adding even more color to it. Look at the parking lot right here. It's like a blue almost. All right, so let's make this less intense. Bring it up to taste. Kind of like that. Now I want to add some more. Let's add some color. Let's cool it off a bit. You can change the shadow tint. Add some more reds right there. And you can in this tint balance thing, you can go back and forth between which one you want. If you want it in the tint balance all the way up, it's going to be shadows. All the way down, it's going to be highlights. So you just blend the two. So that right there makes it look very old school, like 70s style. I actually kind of like that. I like that a whole lot. So let's compare. Let's compare the two. So here's our look that we created and kind of made it our own. And here's the look that we created on our own. So it actually kind of is a little bit more intense than the look that we used. We just made the look. We just made the look a bit more old school type 70s style. And so, all right. So here's what I want you to do. Let me just turn this back. Here's what I want you to do. Go and practice. Really dive in to color grading, color correction. Really dive in. Really jump into it head first, feet first, whichever first you want to go into. And just really attack it. Because in reality, it's all about what you like. And if your leadership, once you bring in your first draft, if they don't like it, okay, well, you did your best. But I mean, hey, sometimes to learn, you gotta fail, and sometimes your opinion isn't the exact same thing as the other people on leadership team. So, but again, you could be leadership team, and it's up to you. Anywho, just just show it off to your different friends and see what they think. Usually, if you send it off to someone else and you have an outside look, they can give their opinion. They might not know exactly what to say, but they can say something doesn't look right. It's good, but that's kind of weird. And you could say, oh, okay. Or you can be like my pastor who said, hey man, there's a field behind the church. Go shoot that. And it adds a absolute ton to the video itself. So keep working, keep practicing, keep coloring, keep grading. Just remember, just be you. All right, I'll see you next time for the next lesson. Bye.